Hi, everybody. I'm Jack Jinseki, and joining me today is Eric Loy.
Hello.
Eric Loy, this is. I should preface by saying that this is kind of unusual for my show in particular because I'm used to interviewing VTubers, but today you're actually someone yourself who interviews VTubers. So I'm
Yeah,
inter. Oh, sorry.
this is kind of an inception. You're
Yeah.
interviewing the VTuber interviewer.
Yeah. A little unusual, but I'm curious to see what happens with it because it's kind of like I get to talk a little bit of I guess inside baseball of a sort. Uh, so how would you describe the content you make?
Well, I would say it's more conversational than anything else. I say I have interviews in the title. That's kind of just because I need a title.
Yeah.
And I always when I've always been a person who enjoys just talking with people one to one and getting to know them a little bit. And I would rather have the second part. Good conversation is more what I'd like to have when I'm doing these interviews. I This way I get to talk to these folks and kind of draw out their reasons for being VTubers, what they want to do with VTubing, maybe get a little bit of insight of what they enjoy doing, what they have goals for. There's too many stories, as you've been able to find out,
Mm-hmm.
people in the VTuber community. Everybody is different. Everybody has different reasons and different talents, and I think it's just a real fertile ground for interview subjects.
Mm. So, what made you want to talk to VTubers specifically?
Well, I enjoy VTubers. I like watching them. I mean,
Hmm.
I'm an old fella. I remember my first console was a Pong console
Hmm.
from
Yep.
from Sears. So I've seen it all in my years. They and I was an interviewer and radio show host for a long time.
Really?
Yeah, for 35 years,
Hmm.
which is a long time in radio years. But and a lot of that was done with interviews. They interviewed people who came from all sorts of backgrounds, mostly sports, but um, also authors and sitting governors, one Nobel Prize winner, which was a terrible interview, and local people. And the part I liked most was talking with folks.
Yeah.
And I had to leave the business about 6 years ago because even though I was working locally and evidently I was doing okay because I was getting some state awards and all that for what I was doing, I was still only making $10 an hour.
Yeah, that's a little
Yeah,
hard.
yeah. And I'm not by myself. If I was by myself in the radio business, like a lot of radio people, longtime radio people are, it wouldn't have been so bad. But it's not going to feed the bulldog. It's not going to feed any dog, even a Chihuahua. It ain't going to feed that at $10 an hour. So
Yeah.
I had to get a different job and was out of radio. Really, the only thing I wanted to do, not since I was a kid, was have a microphone in front of me. So
Hmm.
I figured, oh, I'll give podcasting a try like everybody else. That a lot of other people give it a shot anyway, and
Hmm.
I wanted to. What am I going to do with it? I just didn't want to go on and yap about myself because I bore myself about myself, so
Hmm.
I would bore everybody else too. And I didn't want to do sports because everybody's doing sports. Um,
Hmm.
and I didn't have the insight like I did before, working in a university town. Um, Not that I was the big banana there anyway, but I had some insight. And I didn't want to do politics because I hate politics.
Don't we
And
all?
yeah, there's nothing more divisive or stupid as politics, in my particular opinion. And the opinions of the guest are strictly the opinion of the guest, and that type of thing. I threw your disclaimer in for free. Um, the the so what was the subject I wanted to do? I looked at the VTubers and said, you've got some folks who are interviewing VTubers that are interviewing other VTubers, but you don't have somebody who's coming from the outside to do this. And I'm not going to be a VTuber because I just don't have. I don't think I have the personality or the gaming experience or wherewithal to do it. I don't have that type of a talent.
Mm.
But I can at least spotlight a few people and show a little bit closer, get down beyond the fanboy or fangirl or fan whatever folks are calling themselves these days,
Hmm.
um, to a little more to the person and find a little bit more about them. And once I found out how many different stories there were, I said, well, that's going to be my meat and potatoes right there. And it's been easy and a lot of fun since.
So it's funny because the way you describe VTubers, there is the concept of what a VTuber is supposed to be,
Hmm.
and it's kind of like some people might think that a VTuber is merely just it's an avatar that you throw on the screen and it is basically a stand-in for you, and maybe you don't want to be seen and
Hmm.
that's why it's there. But then there is more like a philosophical concept of what is a VTuber supposed to be.
Right, right, right. Yeah, it's an interesting thing to dive into because for me, and the word VTuber, um, there are certain definitions for it. I mean, obviously, you need to have an avatar to go on, or a model. The PNG stuff, I don't care about.
Yeah.
PNG or anything, that's something that doesn't make any difference to me.
Yeah.
But it, I think you're dead right on about that, and people have their own definitions of it. But you know what? It's my show, and I get to define what I want. Come get me. It's not like I'm doing this for money. I'm doing it because I enjoy myself.
So, what was the process for creating your show?
Mm. Well, I got a real cheap setup because I'm cheap. It doesn't make any difference whether I'm making money or not. I'm still cheap. Um, and tested it, and uh, that was pretty much it. Since I figured out how the microphone works, and I've got an editing program here, the freebie editing program that's a lot like what I used in radio.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not good at video, so I go with just still pictures for the most part. Um, Maybe I'll get better with it someday. Oh, I'm an old dog, and learned a lot of new tricks lately. I'm kind of tired, so uh, I um, I just stick with that. It was pretty easy to get started. The hardest part was getting other folks to trust me enough to come on the show.
Hmm.
That was a tough part because I imagine it'd be easier for someone who was actually a VTuber uh, to get that kind of trust, and you they could go back and take a look at what you've done as a VTuber games. And again, well, they don't know what I'm talking about. But I was coming from out left field. I mean, people were looking at me like, "Are you going to try and scam me? Are you?" And I can't blame them. I can't blame them. That, with everything that's gone on not just in VTubers but everywhere. I
Yeah.
can't blame them for that. Um, but as soon as we got a couple of some people who decided to take that chance and they heard what was going on, I could use that as they could take a look at this interview or take a listen to this one, and people realize that I'm not out there to skewer them. I'm not there to make them look bad.
Hmm.
Um, I want to find out about them, and people seem to enjoy it. So at least the guests do, and that's what it's all about to me. I want to talk to folks and have fun with
that that was that was a
them.
problem for me too, because when I started out, I went with an audience of zero. I came into this with an audience of zero, effectively,
Mhm. Yeah.
and I had to figure out, number one, who to contact, and number two, how to convey the message that I actually wanted to interview, and I'm not a bot on Twitter.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, but because and I don't blame anybody for being wary about it,
Mm,
and I don't get mad if somebody just says no, because sometimes it's just not for them,
yeah.
or they're busy and wanna do other things. That doesn't mean they're not gonna change your mind later and decide that they wanted to do it. You always leave the door open, but I can tell you the first thing I tried was email, and that worked very spectacularly not. Out of triple digit numbers of emails, absolutely one person,
Wow.
ended up on the show. I got a little some bites here and there, but they convinced themselves not to do it, and, uh, one person came on, and I was very grateful for that, and we had a good experience, but I said, "Well, that's not gonna work, is it?" So, um, I got on Discord, and there are several different places where I can advertise a little bit and say, I've got a show here. I've got, you want to come on?" And I linked to some old interviews I'd done with people in the past, on the radio that I'd had up on the internet at the time. And they took that jump. And then I started, um, I used Twitter a lot. I'm not calling it that, the other thing. And now Blue Sky, I use that quite a bit
Mm,
to interview. And sometimes I just get contacted with folks now, that we're a couple of hundred in. They say, "I'd like to try it. I'd like to be on. I know somebody who'd like to be on." And I say, "Let's do her if we can." Um, I'm not I'm not discriminating against people who are just getting started, people with less than one audience, or people with more than three-digit audiences. It doesn't matter to me. I want to hear from everybody.
yeah, my thought when I was going into this was I only need an audience so large that, number one, I would like it not to be zero.
Yeah.
That would be kind of nice, but
Yes.
at the same time, it would also be nice enough to have it large enough that I can actually just use it to find more people.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because referrals has been very useful for me so far.
Oh yeah, word of mouth can be huge as far as it goes, especially if you talk to somebody who has a lot of um, people that they collaborate with, or if they're in a small group.
Hmm.
Um, they'll say, "I'll tell this person and this person about it too," and then you'll hear from one or two of them, and then you can kind of go from there. Um, but word will travel, but you have to be able to back it up once it does travel. Um, I know in the radio business, um, word travels both good and bad. Try to make it good, so because the bad one will spread a lot quicker, and whether it's true or not. So try to be as kind as possible to the guests, and I haven't had any problems with that. I just enjoy myself too much.
So, I know you uh, made reference to this earlier, but what do you think is the most variable quality about the people that you've had on your show?
That's a really good question, because there I could just easily say everything and ignore it, but I'm not going to. Um, I think it's the backgrounds. I think that everybody has a different background, and that includes their talents, and whether they're introverts or extroverts, reasons why they came on, what they want to do with the channel. Every every time I talk with someone, it's all new. We start with a clean slate, and we go from there. I'm
Hmm.
not comparing I'm not comparing this VTuber who uses a cat type icon to this VTuber who uses a cat type. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
We start from scratch, and that is the variety that really spices it up. Because who wants to hear the same interview over and over again? It's 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 not. I just kind of started going back and talking, doing some updates with people I've already interviewed. We've done it now for by the time this comes out, it'll be almost exactly a year.
Wow.
Um, so a lot of people have gone on to other things. Maybe they've changed models, or maybe they've um, expanded quite a bit. Uh, but I'm diverting from the topic.
No, don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's there's so much that's different between one and the next. I could do 5 interviews in one day, and every one of them are completely different, and I enjoyed every single one of them. If you don't enjoy that, then this isn't for you.
Mhm. So, do you, when you do your interviews, do you find that you go in with like a list of topics in mind, or a general a general idea of where things are going to go, or do you just kind of go in and just talk and not really a plan
I wing it.
in mind?
Done wung it is what I did. Uh,
Nice.
well, I never really have been the person that writes down questions before coming on, and other folks do, which is great. It's what
Hmm.
everybody has different styles. That's the great thing about interviewing. And I could talk about that later, but really,
Hmm.
the I would rather just go with the flow. There's some basic questions like who are you? Why did you get started? But from there, it's a conversation, and the conversation is give and take. If I'm not listening to what the guest says, then the audience isn't listening to what the guest says, and the audience isn't going to care either. I am sure you've heard people do an interview, and it's so wooden that you might as well be not there at all. You might as well not be a host.
Hmm.
Uh, I mean, we're getting so close on AI now that we're going to get AI interviewers eventually.
Right.
Um, but it takes kind of the if I'm not curious enough to ask the question, how can I expect an audience to be curious enough to be interested in what I'm doing?
Yeah.
And that's to me it's always been a pitch and catch type of thing. I um, when I was doing radio, I occasionally would do a news radio,
Hmm.
uh, and and I would call up, say, the local police chief, and I wouldn't, BS him and talk with him for an hour and take two 20-second sound bites from him. I would say, look, chief, I got 2 questions for you. I need sound bites for. Let's go. And I would go get right to the point because I'm not going to waste the time. I'm not
Hmm.
going to pretend that I want to talk to him for 3 hours to get little sound clips. Today, there are so many interviewers, especially on television, that are interviewing guests simply to get the answers they already want or know.
Yes.
And that's just so irritating. Uh, I don't want to hear that. I want to hear from the people's own voices. Um, and that's been in my craw for since the 1980s, for crying out loud. So, but I like to go with the flow.
I think that a lot of interviewers see themselves as the star of the show, and
Mm,
the person they're interviewing is merely the person. Like, it's like a bullfight to them.
mm. Well, I mean, everybody's got their own style, and sometimes it works. Sometimes the person's personality is the big driving thing of the show, but then you got to acknowledge that if it was um, a big name celebrity doing the interviews, are you watching it for the guests or are you watching it because of the big name celebrity?
Yeah.
And if that's what you're into, it's always your mileage may vary. That's perfectly fine.
Mm.
Everybody who does interviews is going to take a different slice out of the apple.
Mm.
You and I have different backgrounds.
Of course.
If we interviewed the same person, we would get different answers and different results, which is wonderful.
Hmm.
That's the way to do it because now we know a little bit more about that person. Uh, you did it your way, I did it my way. Maybe somebody else will do it their way. Um, Hopefully, still everybody got entertained. The person was happy with the interview. The the host is happy with the interview, and everybody lives happily ever after. But
Hmm.
there's the one way that doesn't work is if you antagonize the guest or make them feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That that's really bad.
Yeah. I don't dig on that either.
No, or if the guest is so uncomfortable or just doesn't want to be there. Um, I had that happen a lot in sports coverage. I did sports coverage for a major college football team.
All right.
The in that city, and you would get guests sometimes that gave you one word answers.
Hmm.
Now, if I have a 30-minute show, which I had at the time, and all of my questions are answered in the first 3 minutes, now we have a problem.
I totally get where you're coming from.
Yeah, that's where we start talking in circles, which is another thing that radio people can do very well. We come back to see it's the temperature, the call sign, and there's a weather warning, and then the temperature, the call sign, and we go from there. But everybody's got a different way to do it, and that is great. I'm glad that you've got this going. I'm glad that other VTubers got it because you're gonna have a different background to do the questions from because you know a little bit more. I mean, you've got the experience doing it. I don't.
Hmm.
Um, you have a different outlook to it, so you'll be able to ask different questions that probably make more sense than what I do.
I don't
And
I don't know. I would say that you seem to have a far more experience than I do.
well, that's only because I've interviewed a lot more people overall, but I think that I've watched what you do, and you get right down with the people, and people right there with you, which is great. It's an equal footing.
Hmm.
Um, it's tough to do sometimes when you're interviewing somebody who's well known.
Hmm.
Um, if you interview, like I've interviewed a lot of sports guys who are really, hot stuff,
Yeah.
but you don't want to interview them as a fan
No.
because then they're throwing up their own version of an avatar. And then you get all the standard questions. But you interview them as a human being, and you realize that they're just a person who's done this rather than their accolades make up who they are. Then you get the better answers. You get a better conversation, and it's more fun.
Yeah.
And you get to learn a little bit more behind the scenes. I've kind of mentioned this before in a couple of interviews I've done, but I think VTubing, in essence, is an extension of what we used to do as radio disc jockeys.
Hmm.
Uh, in in the old days, where we actually spun discs,
Hmm.
and I'm one of the last people who remembers how to do that with a 45 RPM disc.
Hmm.
Um, we would play songs, and other stations in our market would also play the same songs. We would go on sometimes with different names than we actually had, and people would not see us in person. They would be tuning back in for the personalities playing the songs.
Hmm.
Um, that's what VTubers do in a way. You can go on VTuber on Twitch or whatever or YouTube and find X amount of people playing Minecraft at one point or another.
Hmm.
Uh, but you come back to the person whose personality you enjoy doing the game. And that's what it was with radio too. People can hear the song on any different station they want, but they come back to the personality who was playing the song.
Hmm.
Um, so there is a parallel there in a way, a weird one, but there
Hmm.
is a parallel there. And I think that you VTuber guys,
Hmm.
are the modern DJs of our time. Um, People are coming back to the personalities. I mean, you might draw them in with a game. Look, I'm playing this new hype game, Super Mario Final Fantasy VIII, which I if they do actually do that. I should get all the money from this because I just made that up.
There you
Um,
go.
yeah, I think it'd be a hit. Somebody do it. Um, Not LJN. Somebody else do it. The They come back for the person playing the game because sooner or later, 25,000 episodes of the same game is going to get old no matter what you do.
Yes.
Uh, and People build up communities, which is nice. It's a people, which it would be like a DJ's fan club.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of things to talk to, and that's another reason why I enjoy talking to people about it, and maybe bridge the gap a little bit between one and the other.
That is an interesting parallel. I hadn't really considered that
It's
before.
because you're not old. If you're old, the older you get, the more you try to justify your existence. That's what I'm going to put now on my emails. Signed Eric Loy, still justifying my existence. I used to put my middle initial Eric C. Loy on them
Hmm.
and say the C stands for quality. I think it works on like three different levels.
Uh,
But it's yeah, and people who are doing these interview shows, um, they have different reasons for doing it, and that's a good thing too. Again, it gives us different ways to go through it. So I will never be mad at somebody who has been on my show and it goes on somebody else's show, or comes on my show after doing somebody else's show.
hmm.
Um, that's great. It gives them more exposure, and I still get a chance to talk to
There you go.
them. I'm an old man. I'm not going to be jealous of anybody at this point. A lot of the people who can actually like run and do things and are physical and have money and stuff, but that's the usual stuff.
Yeah.
I could be jealous of that without doing this.
So I know that you mentioned that your main desire out of your show is to get stories from different people. But do you have anything that additional that you're hoping to accomplish with your channel?
I don't really know. I'm having fun with it. There's always going to be a selfish reason for doing these things, and for me, it's still being able to talk with folks, and it's a bit of therapy for me too. I mean, you don't just give up a the dream job you had since you were 12 years old uh, after 35 years. I mean, that's a long, long time in radio. That's ancient in radio,
Hmm.
um, and it feels good to know that you still got chops to do some things
Hmm.
in the world. It's great to get an interview going and talk with somebody, and by the end of the interview, they say, "You know what? That was fun. Let's do it again." Or someone who comes on nervously, and by the end, we're just yapping away like two people who've known each other for a long time.
Hmm.
Uh, that feels good. Getting it on and knowing that other people are listening to it feels good. Um, yeah, I wouldn't be doing it because I don't have to do it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be doing it unless I was enjoying myself with it, and that's where I'm at. I'm very glad that other people are enjoying it too, especially the folks who are coming on and talking with me. It's Haven't gotten any complaints yet, which is nice. Now I will though, but that's I've jinxed myself completely, but it's too much fun. And I'm sure you feel the same way with a lot of stuff. I
Yeah.
mean, you're you're scheduling folks to come on, and by the time you're done with the interview, you're like, "Oh, that was good. I'm really glad for that." Of course, then there's the editing to put it together, but that's
Hmm.
secondary. The actual event itself is the best part.
One of the things that I have that when I came into this whole business and everything, uh, I'm not what you would call a social person, and that's
Mhm.
part of what I hope to accomplish with my channel is to become more socially adequate. And so, usually when I'm looking forward to an interview, I have to kind of tell myself it's not gonna be bad. It's just gonna be you're just gonna be talking to this person, and it's gonna be nice, and afterwards, you're gonna feel like you had a nice time, and that's all
Yeah,
there is.
yeah. That's the best part. You're sharing the experience with somebody else, and then you're sharing that experience with other people too when you get it up and ready to go on the internet. And you have a very solid voice for it.
Mm.
Um, I mean, what you say, you're still kind of learning it a little bit, but that's fine.
Yeah.
You've hit your style. You're gonna be more and more comfortable with it the more you do,
Hmm.
and the guests are gonna be comfortable with it too. And it's it's your thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you can always you can see from VTubers, everybody does their thing differently. Whether they have the same programs, whether they have similar models or animation or that type of thing, but every channel is different in some way
Mm.
because every person is different. I mean, some people have different channels with you know, they have more than one avatar
Mm.
for different channels. That's which I think is you know that's a lot of work. Good on them. Uh, Yeah, there's no wrong way to do it. There's some ways that aren't gonna be as successful as others,
Mm.
and frankly, there's some people who, if you listen to them, you kind of wonder why they're doing it, with both interviewing and VTubing, I imagine.
Yeah.
But as long as they're having fun, who cares?
Yeah.
If they're enjoying themselves and the people enjoying themselves are not hurting anybody, that's basically the way I look at a lot of things in life. Um,
Mm.
if they're not hurting anybody, why do I care?
Mm.
They're enjoying themselves, other people are enjoying themselves. A lot of people could use that type of attitude these days on a
Yeah.
lot of things. Off my soapbox. I don't have many soapboxes because I'm very scared of heights. I'm like, okay, I'm off that one really quick. Um, it has guardrails or something on it, but um, it's a lot of fun. I mean, are you getting what you want out of interviewing?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if the goal of all of this is to get better at talking to people, then I think that I'm getting more comfortable with it, and also the approaching new people
Mhm.
is tricky for me. I don't know how if that gets any easier over time. I hope it gets easier, but
Well, yeah, you get a bigger ego,
yeah.
and I've got a big old pumpkin head when it comes to that, so that ain't gonna make any difference. But no, really, it isn't always easy to contact folks, but
Mm.
be humble, and well, at least this is the way I'm doing it. Your mileage may vary. Try to be humble with it. Explain what you got going on. Say, here's the background. You've got enough of a highlight reel behind you now, where people can go back and see what you're doing.
Hmm.
Um, and it's and if they say no, they say no.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not you're not gonna the old lottery thing is that you don't win if you don't play.
Yeah.
You don't know who's gonna say yes, um, or who's gonna say no. It could be a slam dunk, you thinking, and no, I don't feel comfortable. No, okay.
Hmm.
You don't want to interview someone who doesn't want to be there because that's terrible.
Yeah.
You're not ever going to get a good interview out of that unless you're there to cause harm,
Mm.
which I'm not into. So
Yeah.
it's a mutual thing. Both get into it, you both have fun. Folks who are listening have fun, and then you go on from there. And hopefully get to do it again.
Mm. So, do you have someone in your mind that you would most like to interview, like the dream interview?
Oh, well, you're talking anywhere or
Anywhere, anyone, anytime. You if you want to go back in time and interview George Washington,
mm,
have at it.
oh, I would love to do that. But you go back and look at all any of the historical figures and you'd want to interview some, if you look at if you look at religion, you look at Jesus Christ, you like to interview you know him.
Hmm.
Yeah, that would be that would pretty much crash the internet, don't you think? Um, if you can get that one. But anybody that was famous in history, because there are, if you're curious enough, you will always find a question you can ask somebody.
Mm,
And there, if you have studied them enough, or there's always some question that you have about historical figures.
mm.
Unfortunately, they're not here to answer them. If there was somebody now I would like to speak to, mm, uh, I could probably come up with one, but nobody, nobody triggers all the buttons right now.
Hmm.
Because I really don't want to get into politics and talk to people.
Mm.
Uh, I wouldn't be talking with them at that point. I'd be talking at them.
Yeah.
I'd be yelling at them by the time. I don't want to do that. There might be some sports folks I'd like to talk to. Um, find out one of my favorite interviews of all time was with a former Major League Baseball pitcher and a Hall of Famer, Berkey Jenkins.
Mm.
And that was so much fun because I'm an Illinois kid, Cub fan.
Mhm.
He was one of my favorites, and we got to talk for a half hour, and it was so nice. It was just, you know, chat for the most part, and he was very open, and he has no reason to hold anything back, and that was great. Um, Another one of my favorite interviews was Bobby the Brain Heenan.
Mhm.
I interviewed him twice.
Mm.
That was just too much fun. I mean, anybody who knows who Bobby Heenan was would enjoy something like that. Um, and right now, I don't. The one people I want to interview are the people I'm interviewing,
Yes.
and that's what I want to do right now. I don't want to talk to the head of any of the Japanese companies for all that, or um, there's no particular uh, VTuber I want to interview.
Mhm.
You're probably not going to be able to talk to any of the corporation VTubers anyway.
Mm.
You have to go through a lot of PR stuff.
Yeah.
Um, you have to get approval. You have to probably have your questions pre-approved and all that stuff. I'm not all
Yeah.
about it.
Gross.
Yeah. Some of them will probably be okay with it, but again, you don't want to mess them up either.
Speaking of which, do you have a favorite VTuber? I mean, it can be someone you interviewed, but just like in general.
I don't. But I enjoy so many different folks, and I consider everybody I've interviewed or talked to um, somebody that I'm trying to support.
Mhm.
So I like everybody I've talked to. I
Mm.
may not always watch their talent, their streams
Yeah.
or their content, but I like them all, and I don't want to think that I'm favoring somebody over everybody else.
Of course.
It's just I everybody's my babies, and I don't want to put one over the other. Um, as maudlin as I can get. Um, but like they're up for awards. I want them all to win.
Mm.
I want whoever wins to win. I want to see everybody do well, and I'm not going to put one over the other. I'll show up on anybody stream at any time just to say hi,
Mm.
um, and watch for a little bit while I'm putting in a mountain of work to for the next guest to come on. Um, I don't know if people realize that there's work behind the scenes to do these things.
Mhm.
Um, I have to put together thumbnails.
Mhm.
I have to put together links. I've got a system down now that I could probably do 5 in 5 hours
Mm.
if I'm doing it correctly, or at least 5.5 hours.
Yeah.
So yeah, once you're old, you learn all the shortcuts. And I think I've just strayed way away from the question. But no, I don't have a favorite. I like pretty much everybody I've talked to.
So, what advice would you give to someone who wants to interview others?
Do it. That's the best advice. You have your own style. maybe listen to a couple of folks doing it and decide, do I want to be a hard news type of person where I want to get down to the nitty gritty and just get facts out of people? Or do I want to be someone who's more conversational and draw out a little more of the personality of the person I'm talking to and have fun with it and make them feel comfortable? Um, there's some people enjoy being confrontational. I hate it with a passion. I don't want to be conversational with anybody. I am too old for that stuff. I don't and it I just have always felt uncomfortable with it, and I don't wanna do that sort of thing. I want people to come back and be a part of the show later.
Hmm.
Find a little about what you how you wanna do it, maybe practice on somebody with a tape recorder or tape recorder. Nobody has tape recorders these days, old man. What am I thinking of? Tape. Wow. I need to
you,
go take some prune juice.
you
Um,
you would be shocked. Believe it or not, they actually still use tapes
oh,
for
oh,
data recording.
oh yeah, data recording. But if in the 1980s, we still used a lot of tape. Editing a tape meant that you pulled out a razor blade and then cut and taped the tape together. That's how
Hmm.
we edited. I hated every bit of that. If you made a mistake, you didn't get a chance to fix it.
Wow.
That wasn't very good. I tried to avoid that as much as possible. But the anyway, I've strayed away from the question again. Sorry. Uh, um, really find out a little bit of how you want to do it. Um, look to see if there's people who are going to be willing to do it, uh, and that you have the access to do it. You have the equipment to do it. You have the money and the time to do it, and do it the way you want to do it. And then don't worry so much about trying to get money from it. I'm not worrying about it. I'm not I'm not going to monetize what I'm doing.
Yeah.
There's too much stuff that you have to go through for that. And despite what Mrs. Interviews wants, I'm not going to try it. Am I making money off that thing? Well, let's see. I'm having fun with it. That's why. You don't have to make money off of everything, but um, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Um, but at least you give it a shot. And what I'm doing here could have been over with in 1 month,
Hmm.
and that would have been, if people didn't like it and it didn't resonate with anybody, then we wouldn't be doing it.
Hmm.
And I'm just glad for that. And you wouldn't have anything to do with me. You wouldn't want to be interviewing a retired old radio guy who doesn't do anything else. I wouldn't be on this show. But I'm just glad it's all settled in and people are enjoying themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I hope that answered generally your question, or at least avoided it enough to make it sound like I answered it.
So I have a few questions here. They're kind of boilerplate questions that almost everybody with VTubing has some level of involvement, but you might not actually not. Do you watch anime at all?
I have I have watched some anime in the past. I enjoyed Ghost in the Shell.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed, of course, Cowboy Bebop.
Yep.
That's very easy to enjoy. It's
Hmm.
not, I'm not being treading into dangerous waters there. Um, I watched one of the Bubblegum Tokyo ones.
Mm-hmm.
They were all on the old Cinemax channel,
Yeah.
um, and I watched bits and pieces of others. I watched the Fist of the North Star, for crying out loud. That was when they first put it on Cinemax, and I didn't understand any of it. There's no continuation in that particular edit of it. There was none of it made any sense, and I still enjoyed it anyway. Um, and I enjoy the type of shows that kind of have that post-apocalyptic thing
Mm-hmm.
going. Um, I guess I watched Big O, but that's because there wasn't anything else on. So I've watched that one. Um, I think right now my favorite would be Bebop and then Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah.
I did not watch the movie and I won't. So
Uh, go,
that'll give me a couple of anime points for everybody.
Ghost in the Shell, the movie, or Cowboy Bebop, the movie?
Neither one of them.
Ah.
No, I think they did it right the first time.
uh,
So
um, so, let's see. I take it you probably don't have any interest in going to an anime convention, right?
I don't know. I don't know. I might if I was in the town, I would do it just to see what's going on. If somebody paid me to do it from a radio station, said, "Hey, here you go. Here's a couple bucks. Go get some free stuff." Yeah, I'd do that.
There you
Radio people lived on free stuff. We certainly weren't getting paid. Is that free stuff? Okay, I'll do it. It's it would be kind of fun to look around. I don't understand a lot of it, but
go.
that's life. I don't understand a lot of it.
I mean, hey, being somewhere you don't understand can be the most interesting.
Oh yeah, you don't learn unless you go out there and poke around a little bit. And again, there's some shows that I like quite a bit, and there's probably a lot of shows I would really like that I don't know about,
Mm.
or didn't get a chance to see more than one episode of because I got distracted. Something with shiny keys or something. So yeah, there might be a few more I'd be interested in seeing. I'm not throwing the baby out with the bathwater there. There might be some other things I might like.
Do you play any video games?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I have over 30, almost 40 save files of Stardew Valley.
Wow.
Yeah, I had to stay away from it. I not that long ago got through Fallout 3 and New Vegas. I bought 4, but my computer at the time wouldn't run it. So,
Which do you prefer?
oh, probably New Vegas. Um, Although Fallout 3 is just fine. Because I played 1 and 2, and I played them over and over again. Played the cheats on them and everything. And the difference is amazing, but it was, when you get to my age, and by the way, it's 59, in case anyone was wondering, so I am old, literally. Um, you don't have the same type of twitch muscles you used to. When I was playing, Super Mario Brothers, the original. So things that get too fast, I'm not going to be able to keep up with. Uh, with Fallout 3 and New Vegas, I was able to keep up with it okay, which is was perfect for me. I enjoyed them quite a bit. And there's a few more I'd like to play. I do like some sports simulation. My go-to phone game is Luck Be a Landlord. Folks should look it up. I guess they call it roguelike. I don't know what that means. But it's just a lot of fun, and it's something I can get lost in for hours.
So, just out of curiosity, since you said you played Fallout 1 and 2, which do you prefer of like the two general styles? The 2D environment or the 3D?
I'll go back and forth, but I like the 3D better. I enjoyed going way back, the Might and Magic series. Um, Not the Heroes of Might and Magic series, but regular Might and Magic, which is a Dungeons and Dragons like game, um, where you level up. And I still go back and play it. I have to slow my computer down to play them. That's how long ago they were. Um, but I enjoy that game. I'll go back to it, even though I've won it a million times. I'll still go back and play that every once in a while. And I rather enjoy moving around and doing it that way. I don't think I could get into VR games. I think that would be a little too much for my synapses. Um, I get a headache and dizzy and fall down, that type of thing.
Yeah,
I could do that on my own.
Yeah, me too. I've had similar experiences with VR.
Yeah, if I want to get a headache, dizzy, and fall down, I could go to a family reunion.
The disasters always happen at family reunions, don't they?
sometimes you just don't even put green. It's a family disaster, and everybody still shows up.
Uh, are you looking forward to any games?
Oh, I don't know for sure. There are a few games out there that I'd like to try, um, and I haven't really gotten around to yet. Um, Project Zomboid looks interesting.
Hmm.
Um, that would be the type of game that I would enjoy, but I'd also hate because you don't get to save and go from there. It's I don't want to die so quickly after I've invested a lot into it. That's really tough.
Yeah.
But every once in a while, there's a few games that pop up that tickle my fancy. I'm looking forward to the haunted chocolatier from Mr. Dead Stardew Valley. I I know he's a perfectionist. He's still tinkering with it. I want to see what that looks like. That should be a very nice, cozy game.
Hmm. And your friends dropped in to play video games. What are you playing?
Mm. If I'm playing with friends, it's some sports game usually,
Hmm.
um, or Mario, maybe maybe Super Mario Party,
Ah, cool.
because it's a simple game to play, or some sort of racing game. And by friends, it would probably be my grandson. And I said that my grandson does not allow me to play Minecraft with him because the only thing I could figure out to do in Minecraft is feed his sheep to death. He said, "Papa, you can't play anymore." But I had one story with him. He's 8 years old, so he knows everything. Um, he had one of the recent Mario games, and it was a two-player one v one game. And me being the dutiful grandfather, he was winning all the time.
Hmm.
And he turned to me and says, "Looks like I own you, Papa." Boy, boy, it's time you learned something from an OG here. And I said that I thoroughly destroyed him the next time. And he shut the game off afterwards. He wanted to play something else. And I said, "I beat the original Super Mario." That this I said, "You're talking to someone whose thumbs are used to these things, okay? It might hurt a little bit afterwards, but I know how to do this stuff. Like, let's play something else." Okay, I'll let you win at something else. But um, no, if I'm playing games now, it'll be mostly with my grandson.
Yeah.
It's it's not easy to get folks in their late 50s to hang around to play video games these days. Too
It
much other things going on in life, unfortunately.
yeah, it is one of the it's one of those questions I was kind of just because I as you know I write all the questions out in advance and I'm like I don't know that I'm not getting the impression that he might necessarily do things like uh, go to anime conventions or
Mm.
play lots of video games. Well, I'm glad
Well,
you play lots of video games though.
I'll tell you one thing I would play a lot more of is Scrabble online.
Mm.
That's everybody's like, "Wah, Scrabble," but no, I I actually am pretty decent at that. I don't like tooting my own horn to this type of stuff, but I did play in a tournament here locally and finished in the money some time ago. I was ranked number 83 in the state at one point. The Lord is that I can. That's one of the things I could put on my resume if I ever need another job. Was once 83rd in the state in Scrabble in Division D.
What's the highest word you ever scored?
Uh, I got 166 points in one word.
And what was that?
I don't remember what the word was, but it had a Z in it, and it covered two triple word scores.
Nice.
Maybe I think it was bronzing or something like that.
Hmm.
It just fit right in a game, and it was online.
Yeah.
And thankfully, the guy stayed on. I my record online is something like 180 something and 7.
Hmm.
Um, but then again, I'm not challenging the super super tough guys either. But it's to me the word games are a lot of fun. And if I'm going online and playing somebody, it's probably going to be Splatoon. Um,
Nice.
yeah.
Okay. So this is the portion of the interview I have like some more um, random questions. I've mulled over calling it the Voight Conf section of the interview, but I don't think anyone will get the reference.
Geez, how old are you?
I I'm 32, but I know a lot of stuff. I,
Well, well, that'll either be very good for you or very bad for you later in
oh,
life.
it's terrible. Are you kidding? I'm a freaking alien over here. I
But wait till you're 59 and you still know all this stuff. You're like,
you
you
know
remember that?
the you think that's bad? In my last interview, I dropped a reference to Frank Zappa.
Oh,
Yeah.
and they're like,
Who
what?
who who, who Frank's who?
No, just be glad that they didn't just say, "Oh yeah, the Valley Girl guy." No, 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 no.
uh, okay, so which do you prefer, Elvis or the Beatles?
Beatles,
Hmm.
Beatles by far. Probably even more their solo stuff than that. Although I do like some of Elvis's stuff. I
Hmm.
mean, but I had a friend of mine in college that was a huge Beatles collector.
Hmm.
Here's a little story. We go out to these used record places, and I used to spend 3/4 of my paycheck on these used record places.
Yeah.
I found a copy of the first Beatles album, and the first Beatles album has been reproduced a billion times, pirated a billion times.
Hmm.
You're never gonna find an original,
Yeah.
no matter what. I mean, even if it says it's original, it's not gonna be. So I took it home, and the first song is "I Saw Her Standing There"
Hmm.
on it, and it starts off 1, 2, 3, 4, and it started. We we put the album on and but just to see what it sounded like, and it sounded fine, except that instead of starting 1, 2, 3, 4, it just goes 4. I said, well, that's probably a bootleg, unless it's some new remixed version they did. But it was like no, Beatles by far, and I just like all their solo stuff more than the Beatles stuff.
Who's your favorite?
Oh, it depends on the day.
Hmm.
Um, George Harrison sometimes. Paul McCartney's an easy choice. Sometimes if you feel goofy, there's a Ringo Starr song that you like. Um, and a song like "Photograph" from Ringo Starr is it's just so simple. But then that's when I really started listening to the radio, was in the mid '70s.
Hmm.
Um, the WLS in Chicago, which was an iconic radio station.
Hmm.
They would play that a lot, and of course John Lennon you could pick up any time.
Yeah.
There's too much. It depends on the day and my mood, whether or not I had my tuna fish sandwich in the morning or not.
Hmm. Oh man, I think it's funny how wildly different Paul McCartney and John Lennon were. Because Paul
Mhm.
McCartney, I mean, he did have some songs that kind of veered off from his typical thing, but
Oh yeah, yeah. He was very much a pop musician,
yes,
and then and a lot of the stuff with Wings, especially early on, were kind of experimental.
yes,
Um, Uncle Albert Admiral Halsey was
hmm,
right out of left field. Has has a crazy song from start to finish. Uh, but then you had uh, silly love songs,
yeah,
which is an absolute perfect pop tune.
yes,
Start and finish. There you go. It's done. Um, and then you realize that he tried to do a symphony. Um, you willing to try that? He was willing to try some other things. pushes the envelope a little bit because yeah, when you're Sir Paul McCartney, you're bored, so you do you do other things with it. Still an amazing um, talent, obviously. It's hard to find fault with anything that he did musically. He didn't make any real missteps.
Unless you're John Lennon, in which case you seem to hate most of his music.
Well, I mean, there's yeah, I mean, I read that yeah, they were at odds, but, he'd still go and visit them, and they'd shoot the BS around and play music together even when they weren't supposed to be together, so and how much it also kind of served the purpose of what they needed to do at the time for them to not be seen together,
Hmm.
and, there's always Yoko, so there you go.
Yeah. Well, we're not getting into Yoko.
No, no, this is a Yoko-free zone.
Okay. You're on a boat with friends. What artist are you listening to?
On a boat with friends. Steely Dan.
You're shitting me.
Yeah.
That is my favorite band of all time.
They are tremendous. I enjoy Steely Dan immensely. I have since Reelin' in the Years,
Hmm.
which is, you're talking 1972 or 3 then or something like that. And when I heard them on that WLS station out of Chicago, I was like, I like that band. And then later on through Asia, and I enjoyed them immensely. I could listen to Steely Dan all day.
uh, Last year, a friend of mine, as a Christmas present, got me an original pressing of Asia, and I have it
Ooh.
hanging in my room.
Yes, yes. What's great about Asia and Gaucho,
Yes.
there's like 7 songs on each album.
Yeah.
They didn't they took them so long to do. They only put on like 7. You couldn't get away with that today. You had to have 30 different things on each CD, but no, they were pressing albums with 3 songs on one side, and people were still lapping it up because it was that good. You
Yeah.
can you can listen to Babylon Sisters all day long, or and not even realize it.
I,
Um,
Babylon Sisters is an interesting one because it doesn't actually. It's Steely Dan minus Steely Dan. If you get rid of Donald Fagen's vocals off of that one, neither of them are playing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's and later on you almost hear more Michael McDonald than you hear Donald Fagen anyway. Is this the Doobies? What's the But there were a few different folks who definitely took their style from Steely Dan
Mm.
at the time, but um, there was nobody else who could have done "Reelin' in the Years."
Mm.
Um, "Do It Again" is tremendous. My favorite has always been Deacon Blues,
Yes. Me too.
um, and there's just too many. "Time Out of Mind."
Hmm.
I end up singing in the back of my head. Like, what is that song about? You don't want to know what it's about. Just sing it.
That's probably the biggest criticism I think there is of Steely Dan is that they'll sing and the references are so weird that nobody really knows what the heck they're actually talking about.
Oh yeah, yeah, and then they'll be singing it, and they, what is it about? Well, it's a heroin, but then it's a really great song though. It's or Kid Charlemagne, something
Yep.
like that. That's a great song. Yeah, well, you don't know want to know what it's about. So there's they did like an entire album of drugs, basically. But the song was so good. The songs were so good, and if it wasn't going to be them, it would be REM,
Mm.
early REM, because
Oh yeah.
I was into them in the early '80s before they were REM.
Nice.
Mm.
Uh, so, what's a good movie to watch on a Sunday afternoon?
Duck Soup,
Hmm. Very
Marx
good.
Brothers,
Oh yeah.
Duck Soup. I could watch that 24 hours. I've watched a lot of the Blues Brothers. The first one, the second one is an abomination that should be burnt. Um, along with a lot of things that Dan Aykroyd's done in the last 20 years, unfortunately. But the Duck Soup is an incredibly funny movie.
Yes.
If there was somebody, there's somebody I would have wanted to interview is Groucho Marx.
You wouldn't have been able to get a word in edgewise. He would have kept it talking over you.
Yeah, well, who would want to hear me in that interview?
Did you
I'll be fourth banana. I don't care.
did you ever see him on the show What's My Line? They
Oh
have
yeah.
I love that episode. Oh, he was freaking funny on
Oh,
that.
he was, and there's a Jack Benny show with Jack Benny coming on. What's My Line?
Hmm.
And with Groucho as the host, and they're just they're off script for most of it. It seems, and they're, and Jack Benny can't hardly keep a straight face during it. It's that good. So
Oh man.
yeah, Jack Benny I like a lot. I like Groucho Marx. If we had Groucho Marx running things, it would be a lot more fun.
I have I have a friend who also loves the Marx Brothers, and so I was at the Big E Fair in Massachusetts, and I stopped by a lemonade stand, and
Mm.
I immediately send a message to him that says eliminate. That's great. I'll take some. A nice cold glass of lemonade.
Nuts to you.
uh,
It's they're they're just too funny. Just and they didn't take too much. They would blow holes in everything. They didn't. Nothing was sacred for them, which was fine. And they were goofy and you don't go in there. The one thing I have with movies,
mm,
if I go into a movie and it's Transformers 2,
mm,
I don't care what the critics say. I'm not going in there to see Shakespeare. I'm there to see robots fight and blow each other up.
mhm.
And I did. And if I liked it, it was fun. People blow each other up. I'm good with that. Um, I'm not watching, uh, you know, a show on Cartoon Network for the nuances. I'm watching, you know, Gumball because I think it's funny.
Yeah.
There's a people don't worry so much about what other people are saying about stuff. Oh, if you like it, you like it.
Yes.
Uh, who cares what they say?
I think that a lot of people they have this expectation that everything is supposed to be brilliant, but it doesn't need to be the greatest thing ever. It needs to be good at being what it is.
Yeah, yeah. If that's something you enjoy, I mean, if somebody enjoys, you know, The Big Bang Theory, first of all, God help them.
Sorry.
Secondly,
Uh,
uh,
hold on. Brief tangent. They wasted a cameo from Bob Newhart. Are you kidding me?
no, that's just
Crime
unforgivable.
unforgivable.
Yeah.
Unforgivable. And anyway, sorry. Go on.
Well, they have their own channel on Pluto, and my wife sometimes falls asleep watching it. So I've seen every episode 6 or 7 thousand times. And if somebody says we built the pyramids in front of me, they're in for a fight. Um, but if that's something that you like, watch it, and don't worry about what I say or what anybody else says about it.
Uh,
It's your thing. Do what
yeah.
you want to do.
There you go. Uh, I have a feeling I know the answer to this question already, but I'm going to ask it. Would you ever talk to a stranger unprompted in a public setting?
Do it all the time.
There you go.
But sometimes I would keep to myself because there have been times when I've been really not fond of speaking in public.
Hmm,
And even though there were times when I had thousands of people listening on the radio, I still didn't want to go out and talk in front of 10 people.
hmm,
There's a big difference there. But I'm better at it now.
hmm.
I've had to go out at sports events sometimes and be the announcer guy with 1,000 plus people in the room. I did that okay. So yeah, I'll talk to anybody.
Hmm. Did you ever cheat on a test when you were in grade school?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. My favorite one was to write the answers on my fingernails.
Hmm.
because if you write it on your thumb, you can get more on it.
Hmm.
And then if the teacher comes around, you just one swipe and it's off your fingernail.
Yeah.
If you write it on your hand, it's a little tougher to get off the hand.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, I absolutely did. Yes, down
Uh,
all the time, but I did. Yes,
which do you prefer, chess or poker?
chess.
Hmm.
I mean, I like poker a lot, but I played chess since I was single digits,
Hmm.
and I never got to. I maybe got to be one tick above average at chess,
Hmm.
where I could when I did chess online on the old text internet days, which was interesting. But every once in a while, my online name was the spoiler
Hmm.
because I could beat pretty much anybody below me as far as ranking goes.
Hmm.
I would play even with people at my rank, and every once in a while, I would beat somebody over me.
Hmm.
And one time, somebody was rated 300 over me, and I beat them.
Hmm.
And it was such an upset that he went to somebody who was 300 over them, and just happened to be watching, and he was asking, "What did I do wrong?" And I said, "Can I listen to find out what I did right?" I really don't know. It was kind of I call it the Jerry Lewis method of not really having a plan and confusing the other person enough where they get out of their plan, and it worked. But yeah, I once played chess against a guy in a park um, from a local chess club.
Hmm.
He, I tried my opening gambit with him, and he just wiped me out. I knew he would because it's just it's smoke and mirrors. And I
Yeah.
want to see how he beat it. So I said, okay, let's play one for real now. So I got down, was thinking ahead, doing the best I could. I took the man's queen,
Hmm.
and everything stopped. The whole world stopped. Birds froze in the middle of the air. The man stood up, and I'm like, ah. And he looked at the board, and then he sat back down. And I turned to my friend who was sitting next to me and go, I'm gonna die. He took every single piece, and I let him do it, and because at the end, I'm like, "Yep, yep, I deserve every bit." And he said, "Did you wanna play again?" "No, sir. I've learned my lesson, thank you very much." At that point, I've woken the bear, I'm not gonna press it any further. Bow bow to the master and walk away. No, I enjoyed playing chess quite a bit, and I'm teaching the grandson to play too, so
Oh, nice.
he'll be beating me pretty quick. He's pretty smart.
So, which do you prefer, a home cooked meal or restaurant food?
Home cooked if it's the right meal.
Hmm.
I mean, if it's a good home cooked chili
Hmm.
is really good. A good home cooked roast, meatloaf is good. Better home than away.
Hmm.
Uh, but pizza, no, I'd rather have it on somebody else.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Fish, I'd rather somebody else eat it because I don't like eating things that don't breathe the same atmosphere I do.
And I think that this question's better geared towards like a younger person who's like living on their own. But if you had to eat something in your home right now, what would it be?
Pizza rolls,
Oh,
yes. Pizza rolls, put them in the microwave, 3.5 minutes, you're done.
yeah, there you go.
Or hot pockets in a air fryer, which are
Oh,
delicious. Absolutely perfect in an fryer.
I've never actually done that.
Yeah. You put them in at 360 degrees for 17 minutes, and I assure you they will be absolutely perfect. No
Oh,
leakage, nothing.
wow.
They're not frozen. With the microwave I had it at my actual paying job would have one side frozen and the other side burnt.
Yep.
And there was like one strip down the middle that might be able to eat. and it wouldn't do 2 at a time, only 1. So there you go. That was, I lost a lot of weight during that time.
What's your ideal vacation look like?
Oh, the last time I had an ideal vacation, we went to Helen, Georgia, which is the north part of Georgia in the mountains. We had a cabin and a hot tub, and I didn't have to do anything. And it was absolutely wonderful. I had family there with me, the kids, and my wife, and it was just absolutely idyllic. I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Wow. Now on the other end, what's the biggest disaster you look back on fondly?
Oh, oh man, I have so many. Um, um, it's gonna sound weird, but but what else is new coming from me? Uh, the Chicago Cubs, and I've been a fan since the '70s, so I've seen some really bad games. Luckily, I've seen some good ones here recently, but when they had the fly ball incident in the Barton game,
Hmm.
where if folks don't know this, that they were in the National League Championship Series, about ready to win the whole thing. A fly ball goes down to left field in Wrigley Field, and a fan gets in the way of a guy making a catch. The Cubs go on to lose and do not win the World Series. Me being a long-suffering Cub fan, I knew they were going to lose the rest of the way because that happened. Because that's the way Cub baseball worked back then.
Yeah.
At the time, I was in the hospital recovering from a what eventually what had become a major operation. I had a bunch of tubes stuck in me. Um, they had cut along the circumference. I had like 53 staples, and
Ooh.
I'm really uncomfortable. And I I'm watching this game and I see it happen, and I turn the television off right afterwards because I know they're going to lose at that point. And I hit the button for the morphine drip. I said, "Yeah, yep, time for that." Bing. I said, then closed my eyes and went to sleep. I said, there we go. I'm perfectly fine. If you're talking about a disaster that worked out good, hey, I got the morphine drip, so there you go.
Oh boy. Okay, so you find $20 in the street. What do you buy with it?
I don't buy anything. I look for whoever it belongs to.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, I've always, I've, it's not mine.
Hmm.
And I would hate to have hate for it to be somebody's last $20 or $20 they've been saving for one thing or another, and I try to find who it was, who it belonged to. I mean, I realize it's finders keepers in this world, but I don't have to follow their rules.
I mean, there have been instances where I've found money and it's patently obvious that whoever belonged to is long gone, and
Hmm.
if it was that large amount of money, and there were people around and it was like just recently dropped, that'd be one thing. But if it was like there's no there's nobody there, and there's no chance, then I'm like fine, whatever, I'll take it.
I mean, I might give it to somebody else,
Mm.
or drop it in a charity box or something, but it's not. And and I don't want to. It's just I would hope that maybe somebody would find something that I dropped and give it back to me, but
Yeah,
you can't rely on that, and I would rather it just it just doesn't sit right with me if I don't do that. So,
of
you know,
course.
your mileage may vary, and if you would like to find money, you can always give it to me if it makes you feel better.
Yeah.
It'll make you feel better. I know that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, which is your favorite holiday and why?
Used to be Christmas because that's when I made big money in radio. Because you get time and a half, and I didn't have to do anything but listen to Christmas songs for 8 hours. Now it's more like Thanksgiving because of football and food and family. The three F's: football, food, and family. And plus, I still get to work for time and a half. It's all about the money at this point.
So, if you could wake up with one talent tomorrow, what would it be?
Wow. The ability to use tools correctly. Because I can't. I'm switch-handed and pretty useless when it comes to those things. Because, I mean, singing's been a lost cause since 1985. I haven't hit a note on purpose since then. Um, Dancing ain't happening. Um, Other types of things I don't really need, but we can always. Missy's always on me about not being able to do things around the house, so I'll go for the utilitarian, way to do it. Unless it's like flying or something, I can fly, I guess. If you're talking superhero stuff, you know, heat vision is pretty good too. But yeah, let's go with being able to use tools without injuring myself or others would be a good one.
I would be terrified of heat vision because knowing I kind of have lead foot disease, I know that I would just immediately explode something by
Oh yeah,
accident.
yeah. Well, I would hope that I'd be able to control it enough where I could keep my own pizza rolls in the car.
That would be useful.
See, I'm more selfish than you think.
Okay.
Oh, bacon, yes.
So, what's the latest you ever stayed at a party?
uh, oh gosh, I just stayed all the way through and until the next day. Um, there used to be a rule. I grew up on University of Illinois campus in the '80s, and there was a party. You could find one all the time on campus, and usually you could stay until whenever. I mean, the host of the party was usually drunk and completely unrecognizable by the time 4 a.m. come around. But I'd usually stay until the biker guys showed up. That was usually the time to leave because then our our record albums that we were listening to are would be taken off and replaced with Molly Hatchet, and the doorway would be completely covered in people with black dark jackets and steel. And you're like, you go out the back door, find your car, and go home. Then get something. I could stay until the end of it. Of course, I worked overnight at the time, so it didn't make a difference for a lot of parts. But yeah, there was never any problem with it. Back then, we could walk the campus and not be afraid. These days, you can't really do that. Too bad for you kids.
Yeah.
I'm putting you in there too. Kids.
No, my campus wasn't dangerous. I'm from New Hampshire. I went to UNH, and yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, nothing happens there. But you basically you get what the thirsty Thursday. You get the drunks screaming outside your window. That's about as eventful as it got on that campus. At least when I went there.
Which one of the Dover boys were you?
What?
Which one of the Dover boys were you?
Oh.
A cartoon on Looney Tunes. That three Dover boys.
I don't remember that one.
Oh yeah, don't look it up. It's a great cartoon. Look the original. It's beyond. It's got to be Tex Avery-ish. It's unbelievable.
I don't think that Tex Avery got so much play because his stuff tended to be a little bit more adult.
Oh yeah, and crazy,
Yeah.
absolutely off the rails crazy. Yeah, when he moved from when he was moved off of the Warner Brothers he was absolutely unhinged.
Mm.
They You watch those old Droopy cartoons that he was part of, and there's some of that stuff that is he wasn't on something while doing this. Um, but again, it's the stuff that didn't work, we fine, but the stuff that worked was just insanely funny.
Yeah.
And Tex Avery would would never get a job today.
uh,
No, he wouldn't be on Avatar. He would be doing that stuff. Uh, no possible way.
oh boy. Do you collect anything?
Yes. Um, Baseball, football, basketball cards.
Mm.
I did collect coins when I was younger. I just gave that to my grandson, which was fun.
Oh, nice.
Um, I collected refrigerator advertising magnets,
Mm.
which are the flat ones, the local flat ones,
Yeah.
not the big ones with when Misty came over to my house for the first time, I had a refrigerator covered on 3 sides completely with refrigerator magnets. Yeah, I don't anymore. Um, nah, but I still have the box full of them. So one of these days when she's off visiting her mom or something, I might just redo it again, but that's only if I wanna get hurt. I enjoyed it too much, but really, mostly, baseball, football, basketball cards, that goes back from the early '70s, um, and that was a lot of fun. Got kind of expensive there for a while.
Yes.
Still really expensive if you like the old stuff. I
Mm.
don't like the new stuff. It reminds me too much of playing lottery.
Mm.
Back in the day, I was happy to get my Joe Namath, and you had just as much chance of getting Joe Namath as you were Joe Smith.
Mm.
Now it's a whole lottery. That's
Yeah.
just you
Yeah.
kids run the thing.
Yeah. That is what I noticed is that card games now are treated like scratch tickets. They're like,
Yeah.
open the pack. Oh, what did I get? What did I get? It's special. I'm like,
Oh, people don't even know that Pokemon is a card game.
yeah.
They you just get, "I want the super shiny, Rayquaza X, Super X, hand drawn, signed by God himself, 4 out of 1, and I want it in 10 out of 10 form by Beckett." And okay, fine,
I'm like, we're just getting the kids addicted to gambling, aren't we?
Oh, yeah, yeah, well, I
Uh,
mean, then they look up and see that, Powerball is $1 trillion. Yeah, yeah,
oof.
I I'll gladly finish second in that race there.
And this is my final question of the evening. What smell reminds you of home?
Uh, you mean home now or home when I was a kid?
However you want to take it.
Mm, Smell when I was a kid. Apricots.
Like fresh apricots?
Mhm. When I was a kid growing up, we had apricots in our neighborhood. We had trees, and we actually could eat some of them off of them, which we couldn't do with any of the apple trees because it seemed like as soon as the apple came up, they were infested. Um, and all you could do is pick them up out of the yard, otherwise you'd run over them with a lawnmower.
Mhm.
Um, but the smell of apricots was all through the neighborhood, and it was pretty amazing. If When I smell that, I'm like taken back to where I was 5 years old again, which is back in the Stone Age when we drove cars with our feet. Wilma. But it really that would do it, I think. But um, and that would be the one that would bring me back to the backyard, um, kicking the ball around. That's for sure.
Uh, Well, that's all I had. Thank you very much. This interview has been a total pleasure.
Oh,
Uh,
it's me too. I appreciate it. You're very personable, and it's very easy to talk with.
I
So
appreciate
so everybody say yes when he asks.
that.
You put that on your promo.
Yes.
Everybody say yes. In order.
Well, anyway, if you are watching this interview from YouTube, I'm going to have links to all of Eric Loy's socials in the description to this video, so be sure to check them out.
Thank you.
And once again, Eric, it's been a total pleasure. And
It
oh,
it's an honor for me. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
thank you. And with that, I'll be signing off. Good night, everybody.